Well, how are you doing with your time management, and how are you doing with all of your habits? And at the end of the day, are you as productive as you hope to have been? Well, we are really honored to have with us today Dr. Fred Lybrand. He's an author of quite a few books, and the one that we want to talk to him about is the #1 successful habit that you can't do without today. And there's a picture up there on the screen. He's authored quite a few books, and he's also has consulted quite a few companies and organizations to become more productive, higher levels of productivity and performance in their company. And so, Dr. Lybrand, nice to have you with us today. And looking through the book, I'm always interested in this topic because as a person who manages a fairly active staff, I always wonder, man, are we getting things done? Are we productive? I read all of the E-Myth books and everything, trying to figure out, are we doing it the right way? But what made you take this topic on?
Well, you know, one of them, the big reasons is just personal. I've always struggled personally with like having ADD, except I learned my diagnosis this year is ADOS, which is attention deficit, squirrel. and you know, with that kind of dynamic, I've been wrestling with a way to approach time and getting things done that isn't like for people with accounting degrees that love calendars, etc. I'm not that kind of person, and there's some way to think about this for the rest of the population instead of that 1/3 or 1/4 of the people.
Are we too ratcheted up? Are we trying to get too much done in a day?
Well, we are. We're actually, the way the book approaches it is we're not ratcheted up and trying to get too much done. Our problem is that we're not honest. Our eyes are bigger than our stomach, kind of like going to the cafeteria line. And what the reality is, or the truth of this thing, is that we can only get so much done. If we're efficient, we can get more done. But instead of being honest about what we're going to do, we pretend that we're going to do all this stuff. And as a result, we overcommit and overstress, and then overeat and overexhaust, and you know, try our best to kind of shorten our life.
All right, so what is it? What's the one thing we can do without?
Well, the one success habit you need, the one thing you can do without is you can do without fibbing to yourself, dishonesty. You can start telling the truth about what you really get done. The one success habit is the habit of learning to get done every day exactly what you mean to get done. And what we do in the book is show you how to think about systems and exactly how to think about items on your list and figure out, am I really going to do that today or not? Because once you can admit that to yourself, the entire game changes, I promise.
Wow, that's a biggie, especially for those of us who have a hard time saying no to commitment.
Exactly. But there's a way to do it, and it's a habit. You know, a habit is something you develop that you don't have to think about. And so we want to get it to that habit level. It doesn't start there, but when you get it down to that level, then life becomes much simpler because you're shooting straight. You know what you can get done, know what you can't, and you're not freaking out, as my kids would say, about everything that's coming at you, you know, in a day.
Now, you're not big on to-do lists, right?
Actually, I would say I'm probably against them. I'm probably, if I could stomp out something on the planet that would bring more health into more people instantly.
Yeah.
Generally, unless you use it wrongly, you know, the way most people use it, it's an overwhelm list. It's a place to continue to collect more and more and more, and you never really get caught up, and you never experience success. You never experience knocking it out. It's just a never-ending set of waves. It's like being a little kid at the beach, in the ocean. A wave hits you, you get up, wipe your eyes, another wave hits you, another wave hits you. That's what a to-do list does to people.
Wow. So what's the one successful habit that can help us get motivated to take on the day? Sometimes we start with the blues and we're tired, and you know, I have these spurts. I'm sure you have them too. I'll just sit at my desk and I'll get a million things done. Then there's days I just keep pushing the piles around.
Right. And at the end of the day, from pushing the piles around, you feel terrible. Or you may not feel terrible, but you don't feel chipper.
Yeah.
And you didn't get that much done. I mean, I had this Monday. My son got married over the weekend, and Monday showed up, and I had some things I wanted to do. And you know what? my Coke had lost its fizz. And so I got honest with myself and I said, what am I really going to do today? And I looked at the items on my list and I said, are you going to do that one? And I said, yes. And then I said to myself the next question, which is, really? And I went, and I said, really? And I went, nah. And so I scratched that one off. And by the time I went through it, I realized the most important thing for me to do that day first was to take a nap, which I did. And then when I woke up, there were some other strategic messes I cleaned up that weren't productive, except they set me up to have a productive Tuesday. That's because I sat down and got honest with myself about what I really would do in the day. Most of us are not doing that, and as a result, we're in trouble. Perry, let me throw out real quick. The trick is to have a closed list every day. A closed list means a list of what you're going to get done, and you're pretty much not adding anything to it. That's all you're getting done that day. Since most people don't have a closed list, they don't have a good way to be focused because anything can fly at you.
How do you handle interruptions?
I like interruptions. In fact, I love interruptions. They're exciting. If I have no one around, I'll interrupt myself. I don't mind that at all.
Well, you are DOS.
Yeah. However, what I do with them is I look at them in terms of urgency. And if the interruption is not urgent, Covey taught us there's a difference between urgent and important.
Right.
And I go through the book to explain that's completely wrong. I mean, I like him, God rest his soul, but the truth is that if it's not urgent, why do it? Urgency displays importance relative to time. That's why it's urgent. It's made up to pretend like something is not urgent that is, or something like that. And I've found if I look at the things and just say, is that more urgent than what I'm doing? And if the answer is no, I put it in a place called a may-do list. I just put it where it needs to go. And then if it is more urgent, guess what? I move it to the top because I can be interrupted. If a kid breaks an arm, tough break on my list. I have a higher priority. It's already understood that I'll interrupt myself to get into the hospital or the doctor.
Do you manage your time through a daytimer type system, or are you electronic? How do you do it?
Most of it is electronic. I have two things I do. I use a Google the list. I just create some lists. I have a may-do catalog, a weekly may-do, and a daily will-do. Those are my lists there. And I have a little app on my iPhone that I use. Or my favorite thing to do is just to take a 3x5 card, divide it into 3 columns, write what I'm going to do, I think, the day in the middle column. That's my maybe column. And then I go through and sort them. Am I going to do that today? Really? And if it's yes, then I move it to the will do column to the left, scratch it through. If I'm not going to do it, I'd move it to the will not do. By the time I sort that, I mean, there's just nothing to it. I know what to work on. And since I know I'm going to get it all done that day, I just get busy.
Attaboy. So, what do you want people to get from your book?
Perry, you're going to have to repeat that.
I said, what's the essence you want people to get from your book?
The essence I want them to get is that unless you read it, you want to appreciate what I'm saying. However, when you read it, what I want you to get from the One Success Habit is that you actually have the ability already to know what you will do and not do if you sit and think about it. You have that capacity. Most people don't recognize it. And so once we start training people to admit what they really will do or not do in a day, their productivity goes way up because they have a way to focus now instead of feeling overwhelmed.
Do we put too much pressure on ourselves?
Sure. And listen, if you don't, you've got family and friends and parents and pastors and teachers that'll fill in the gap for you.
Wow, it's a fascinating thing. I have discovered that interruptions sometimes I can't avoid, especially when you're in management and you got a lot of people coming in at you, but it does interrupt your ability to get the list done, and you're rolling them over to the next day, and then you've lost that motivation.
Exactly. What we teach people in management, one of the things we invented for them was to have the people that report to them come and say this simple thing. Unless you have an objection, I'm going to, and you fill in the blank. So what it does is it allows the people reporting to you to initiate a solution. And then you can inform them, yes, wait, go for it, that sounds good, or I know something else that we need to wait on. My favorite thing to do is to say to somebody, what would you do if I were dead? And then they tell me, and 90% of the time I go, that sounds good, go do that. Makes the interruption, last about that long.
Oh, that's wonderful. The other thing is that's so interesting is that we have a tendency to want to move our management style over to somebody else, maybe somebody that's underneath us. Is that a fair thing to do?
Only if they are a clone of you. I mean, it'd be like trying to require somebody to write left-handed because you do when they're right-handed. Why would you do that?
Yeah, okay.
That style, the uniqueness of personality is still the uniqueness of personality. I mean, there are principles, but some people want more information. Some people want the bottom line. That's why you have to learn to work together. I mean, what's the old saying in marriage? If you're both the same, one of you is necessary.
Yeah.
But it's going to be true with management, too. I mean, that's part of the diversity is what makes a team oftentimes really cool, really work.
What do you think of the 1 minute manager, that style of management, time management?
I like the idea. I tell you what I do like. I like the idea of dealing with things as they come along.
Right.
This idea of having a yearly review, my goodness, once a year you're giving feedback? I mean, that's just strange if you think about it. Quarterly, maybe, but issue by issue, that's what people need. Good job. Catch them doing something good. Tell them they did something good. If something wasn't quite right, help them understand how we can do it better next time. I mean, most people really, all management's about expectations and consequences. And of the two, the most important is expectations. Most people do not know what their boss wants from them because they've never actually gotten it clear.
Mm. The book is entitled One Success Habit You Can Do Without. I tell you what, it's a really a tremendous tool for those of you who are struggling with managing your time and how to get by with things at the end of the day that you realize you didn't get done. Of course, I like the bottom line of what you're saying here, Dr. Lybrand, and that is that being honest with yourself. I have to tell you, I guess my enthusiasm sometimes overrides my reality. I want to get all this done. I just need to be more honest and say, nope, I'm not going to get that done today.
Yeah, and what'll happen in the course of time is you're going to get a whole lot more done. But just that honesty of being able to admit what you can and can't do, kind of like we do with money, when we finally admit what we can and can't afford,
yeah,
life actually goes better. It may not feel as good for a moment, but it feels great when you're not having to go to the pawn shop every day to cover something.
All right, well, you're a delight. I'll let you get back to feeding the squirrels. I assume that they can get your book online, right?
They can. Go just Amazon in particular, The One Success Habit. In fact, I think if they put Success Habit in, they'll find it straight up.
Yeah, straight up. That's right. All right, thanks, my friend. Nice to talk to you.
Take care. Thanks.